Spartan Stadium. The game will be televised nationally on ABC. Coach, thanks again for joining us today.
No, yeah. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for setting it up. Thank you guys for showing up again on Zoom. And I always look forward to seeing y'all. Just before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that tomorrow is Veterans Day. So I'm incredibly thankful for those who serve our country, to their families, and for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. So again, thank you. Last week's game was unacceptable. I hold and will continue to hold this team to a higher standard of performance. And so, we've looked at the tape, and we've made the corrections that we've needed to make relative to that game. And we're moving forward on our game plan with Indiana. So. And Indiana's a good football team. I like the way this team is built. They play complementary football, offense, defense, special teams. They're a physical football team. They got a difference maker at quarterback. Their receivers are very good. They have a big offensive line. They got a big running back. They rotate 17 guys in their front seven. In their secondary, they have really good range, and they run and they hit. And so special teams, they play hard. They've got good specialists. So it's a well-rounded football team. And I can see why they're 3-0. I can see why they're ranked in the top 10. So certainly I have a lot of respect for the way they're coached and the way they've built that program over the past 3 or 4 years or so. So we've got, like I said last week, we got a lot of work to do, and we're up for the challenge. And so yesterday was a good day, just corrections, and then introducing Indiana in the game plan. So today and tomorrow are going to be padded days. And so, we're going to get after it and, work to get better. So I feel like we're in a good place in terms of our mental disposition towards knowing what we need to do to get better. But what we're looking for and what we need is consistency in performance. If you want to be successful, you have to be consistent, and on a day-to-day basis. And consistency comes from, doing what you're supposed to do, the way you're supposed to do it, and understanding why it's important to do it that way, day in and day out. And so, that's what we're working towards. And so we're going to confront, and we're going to demand at every opportunity to get the results that we need to have on the field. So today is an awesome opportunity to take a step forward and get one day better. But with that, I'll open it up for questions. I'm sure you guys have some for me.
Thanks, Coach. We'll start with Chris Solar, the Detroit Free Press. Chris.
Well, when you have a game like that, it obviously isn't the way you draw it up. It isn't the way you want to deal with it. What ways can you kind of put that quickly in the past? I mean, what things from a mental standpoint do you have to do to just, do you burn that tape? Do you watch it to death? I mean, there's obviously a couple different ways that you could go.
Yeah, well, you're right. That's a great question, because that's what everyone has to be able to do. In sport, you have to be able to assess the issues that you have, whether it's structural, it's mental, it's physical, personnel, and then you have to decide, okay, what do we need to do to correct these things? How do we fix it? And then communicate that to the players, and make sure they understand that. And then you put a plan in place, during the week and during practice, during the practices and the meetings to, work on the things that you need to work on to improve, whether it's drill work, whether it's meetings, whatever approach you change the stimulus as you're looking towards the next opponent and putting in that game plan. And so And that's the process. That's what we're doing. That's what we have to do. But you can't live in the past. That's not a formula for success. You have to be neutral. You have to say, okay, what happened? What are the facts? You can't judge it, right, wrong, good or bad. What happened? Okay, how do we fix it? All right, let's fix it. Let's move on and move forward quickly and aggressively with intense poise. And so that's been the message. Intense poise with staying in the fight, constant improvement, daily throughout the week, and then and consistency and performance. And so that's how we handle it.
Next question is from Matt Wenzel with M Live.
Hey Mel, we obviously week one we went over plenty of the 7 turnovers, but the flip side of that, you guys had 2 or 3 against Rutgers, but 0 the last couple of weeks. I was wondering if there's anything you do to try and emphasize because obviously it's critical to generate more in that aspect of the game.
Yeah, to generate takeaways is huge, and we talk about turnover margin, ad nauseum, and so they do come in bunches. And we have been close, tips and overthrows. We got to get those on defense. The ball came out. We didn't get it. So we have drill work. We change the stimulus on the drills that we do, and we really need to work to get the ball out. To get the ball out, you have to be in position to be able to make the play. You have to get more guys to the point of attack. So the faster you can get there with more velocity, more power, more violence, and population is how you get takeaways. And we have to have our rush and our coverage working together. And last week we didn't have that. We might have had the rush, we didn't have the coverage. We had the coverage, we didn't have the rush. And you get the rush and coverage working together, and then we got to fit the run better, set the edge, and build a wall. And we need to get more guys to finish on the ball. And you're going to get when you do all those things, you have more opportunities to get takeaways. And so, they're not just going to happen. You're going to have to force them.
And with Chris out on Saturday, we saw a little change in the secondary with Julian moving in the starting lineup, and then Kalen moving over to corner, and then we saw Angelo, I think, for the first time on defense this year. I was wondering what you thought overall about the secondary and kind of the rotation you guys had and the performances of some of the new guys.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about developing players, and so that's what we're doing. And so you see guys in different roles. We're working hard to put those guys in the best positions they can to make plays. And so all the guys that we put on the field, we have confidence that they can make plays. And so we're going to continue to work with those guys, and develop them, individually and then collectively as a unit. You want to have cohesiveness in your secondary as much as possible. It's very similar to the offensive line. In my opinion. And so, we're gonna continue to do that, and the guys they're up for it. They're up for the challenge. They want to be coached. They want to be on the field, and they're competing for playing time. They're competing for reps, and so we'll see how it goes today. See how it goes tomorrow. I like to know by the end of the day on Wednesday. By Wednesday night, I like to have a really, really good idea of where these guys are, mentally and physically, and who we feel like can get the job done and at what level within the game plan. And then we'll go forward on Thursday and Friday.
Thanks, Mel.
Our next question is from Lindsey Huddleston.
Thank you. Hello, Mel. Even the casual observer can see that COVID is playing a bigger role again in sports with the announcement of Tom Izzo being diagnosed with COVID. How are you balancing preparing for Indiana building on your successes that you've had and doing other things, but also the reality of this pandemic seeming to make its way back around and hit closer to home with Coach Izzo's announcement.
Yeah, I mean, this is not something that's new. You know, it's because of Coach Izzo, it's or when it Nick Saban and it hit him. My good friend Sam Pittman down at Arkansas, but this has been a constant deal, for many months, since we started back. Whether there's been players, in different sports, there's coaches, staff. It's just that's part of what we're dealing with. It's a daily. It's daily. I mean, this is not anything new. So, like I said, you just deal with it. And again, what can we, what are the facts? Okay. And what, how do you mitigate the risk? And what are the protocols? Behavior modification, all those things. What do you do? What can you do to give yourself the best chance? And then do those things and continue to reinforce those things. But obviously it's here, and we deal with it as it comes. But it can't be. I look at it as offense, defense, special teams, media, and now you add COVID.
Got it. All right. Thank you for that, Coach.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Next question is from Jamal Spencer with WZZM in Grand Rapids.
Mel, I know that you preach discipline and fundamentals ad nauseum, like you said earlier, but when you're facing a top 10 team for the first time this season, do you reiterate to your team that there's even less room for error than there might normally be?
Yeah, I mean, there's the margin for error is very, very slim. When you're, regardless of who you're playing, and when you're playing a really good team, you have to be at your best. Technique and fundamentals is, that's how you get consistency in performance. And so that's the main thing I took from the tape, from the Iowa tape. Offense, defense, and special teams was we need to improve in the areas of technique and fundamentals. You can never get bored with the fundamentals, and that's in all three phases. And so, yesterday we added an extra period of individual so we could hammer some fundamental things that we need to work on. And that's where I go. That's exactly where I go. I go to technique and fundamentals, which is stance, alignment, key, initial move, responsibility, pad level, hand placement, footwork, eye discipline. Okay, and then mental errors. That's where you go. And then penalties. Foolish penalties, pre-snap penalties. That's where you go first, and that's how you fix things. And then when you're not having success, or you're not as consistent as you need to be, then you have to go back and point to a fundamental. And it's really what happens is when you watch the film, the players watch the film, you watch the film, it's sometimes it makes you sick, because it is something that is fun. It's a basic fundamental, and so we need to get to where we're fundamentally sound, at every position, on every play, offense, defense, and special teams, on a consistent basis. And then you play better football. You have less mistakes. You give up less plays. You make more plays. That's what it all comes down to. It's scheme is a part of it. Design of plays, that's a part of it. But you cannot scheme your way out of a game if you don't play with technique and fundamentals and discipline and things like that, and mental and physical toughness. You can draw whatever it's not about that. And so that's where we are this week. You hit the nail right on the head. That's where we are. And so from an approach standpoint, in the weight room and in the training room, nutrition, sleep, in the meeting room, on the practice field. Every little detail, hand behind the line, jog on and off the field, shirt tucked in, mouthpiece in, chin strap buckled up, pad level, eyes right, get to the ball, get off the field, get on the field, hand signal, sign and co-sign, communicate. Those are all things that are fundamental to the program as part of the process. And those things, we're tightening the screws every possible way that we can, because the key is if you need to be able to make the practices and the environment and the environment and the practice harder than the game. And if you can't do that, then when you get in a game, then you can't have the success that you want. So that's what this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there are padded practices for us where we find out how much improvement we can make in the couple hours that we're on the field. And so that's the most intense and relentless part of the week is these next couple hours. We're going to meet at 2:30, and then we're going to get on the field about 4 or 5, and it's going to be time. It's time to get better, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out who wants to get better, who can get better, okay? And we're going to coach them in that manner, And I expect to see a better football team out there this Saturday than when I saw out there in Iowa.
Next question goes to Matt Charbonneau, the Detroit News.
Mel, you mentioned their quarterback earlier, really a dynamic player. What are some of the challenges he brings to your defense? What are you going to have to focus on in terms of trying to limit him this weekend?
Well, he can win outside the numbers on his throws to the field. And so most guys can't do that on a consistent basis. And so and he has a strong arm, which means he can make all the throws. So and he's accurate with the ball. So that's a challenge, because accuracy and arm talent, arm strength, are things that those are things that put pressure on the defense. The other thing about him is that he does have poise in the pocket, and he does not he does not get gun shy, and he will take a hit. He will take multiple hits, and it doesn't affect the way he plays and his decision making. They do a really good job with their formations, their shifts, their motions, and their check with me. And so when they get certain looks, they know where they want to go with the ball. And so that's our disguises, and that's going to be a challenge. But the guy, he's talented and he's tough, and that's what I think that's what makes him a difference maker. He competes hard, so he's a good one. I like him a lot.
Flipping to your quarterback real quick, Rocky played well the first 2 games, did a lot of good things.
Right.
What's the key for him bouncing back? And I guess after watching on film, how would you grade him overall?
Yeah, I think he'd be the first to tell you that he needs to play better. And every week I ask the coaches, okay, on your side of the ball, who played well, okay, who played poorly, and then who needs to make a move, who needs to come on, needs to come around? Who are we looking to add to the mix to get some more reps to possibly get in the game? You know, who's emerging or needs to emerge? And offense, defense, and special teams, we had a hard time finding guys that play well. I mean, it was hard to find anyone that we felt like played at a high level in that game. So with, you know, and from a coaching standpoint, we need to coach better. So, you know, going back to Rocky, you go back to, you know, the technique and fundamentals of the position, you know, going back and trusting your training, you know, going back to, you know, what are your reads? Where does the ball need to go? You know, those types of things. And, you know, take what the defense gives you. And we want to end every series in a kick, preferably an extra point. If not, a field goal attempt. If not that, just punt the ball. And our punt team needs to get a lot better. We need to do a better job in our operation. We need to do a better job with our placement and our hang time. And we need to do a much better job in our coverage with our lanes. Okay. And then our gunners, when they have one-on-one, they need to go down there and make some plays. So, you know, we, like I said, sorry, we got a lot of work to do, you know, at quarterback, you know, at every position. And we got to roll our sleeves up and dig in, you know, and that's the beauty of it. You get I love the challenge. I love being in the arena up against it and seeing, you know, and seeing what happens, you know, a lot of pain, a lot of pressure involved. So, and that's, you know, that's how we got to get it done.
Thanks, Mel.
Next question goes to Kellen Buddy with WILX.
Hey, Coach. Kind of going back to the Tom Izzo situation, he mentioned yesterday he learned a lot from you about doing the remote coaching aspect since you've been doing a lot of that since the spring. Have you spoken with him much since that announcement? What's that conversation been like?
Yeah, we texted yesterday, and I haven't been able to get a hold of him yet today. So hopefully I'm sure I'll get with him probably today after practice, check on him, see how things are going. But yeah, we talk quite a bit. You know, he's very supportive of me and our program, and I'm supportive of him and his program. We have a very good rapport, and we share ideas and philosophies and things like that. And so, you know, certainly, you know, we're in constant communication. I really like Coach Izzo. I always have. I have a lot of respect for him and how he goes about his business. He's a real pro. He cares about his players. He cares about Michigan State. And he's very unselfish. He cares about our athletic department, and he loves football. And so, you know, he's a very selfless person. So he's always looking to help, and, you know, be a part of, and he's rooting, you know, for everyone. So, you know, we reciprocate that as well. I love Coach Izzo. He's a great one, and we're lucky to have him here.
We have time for a few more. We'll go to Audrey Dahlgren with WLNS.
Hi, Mel. I'm
Hi.
just wondering how you would characterize IU's belief in itself right now, and how challenging that might be to line up against a team that's riding this high. They're 3-0 for the first time in the Big Ten in over about 30 years. So what's that like?
I'm sorry, did you say belief?
Yes.
You mean like
How would you?
believing that you can win?
Yes.
Game type of deal. Yeah, I mean, like that's focusing on the outcome is not what we want right now. We have to focus on the process, like the work that it takes, like today, and the work that it's going to take tomorrow, you know, and focusing on that, and what we have to do, like within this day, to improve in our technique and our fundamentals. You know, how do we play faster? How can we be more physical? You know, that type of thing. Learning our opponent, studying film. You know, whether they're tendencies, formations, you know, alignments, you know, assignments, things like that, and keep the keep the focus there. And like I said last week, like I said on Saturday, I told the team we're going to build off of positives that we had in the game. We're going to, and positives that we've had throughout the season, we're going to build on those things. Like we had 15 runs in the game against Iowa that were efficient. And so, every game that we play, we've done some good things. So how can we be more efficient? How can we have more plays in the run game that are efficient? It's not like we can't do it. We have to be more consistent. Same thing in the passing game. We have guys that made plays. We had 6 drives on offense. We had 6 drives on offense last week that, we killed ourselves. Whether it was you jump off sides, you got a late snap, you drop, we had 2 drops on third downs that would have continued drives, mental errors, things like that where you look at it and it wasn't so much and I give Iowa all the credit in the world, don't get me wrong, but you look at it, sometimes it's not so much what the other team does, it's a lot of times it's things that you didn't do correctly. And so I don't see a reason why there would be a lack of belief in being able to be successful. That hasn't even crossed my mind in terms of that. And I don't see that in the players. It's about execution on a consistent basis. And when you improve in those areas and you take it, like in the process, then you take it to the game. Then you take it to the game, and then you carry it over, and then the game is not different than what you practice. That's the key to it. Is you see things in practice, and then when you see something different in the game, then that it shouldn't be like that. So that's where the consistency comes in. But our guys believe in what we're doing, and that's why you got to play. That's why you have to play the games to find out. I mean, somebody's gonna win, somebody's gonna lose. We all know that. That's the way it's going to be. But believing in that we can do it. All you gotta do is turn on the tape and show them the play. When you do it right, when you do it right, this is the result. When you don't do it right, this is when you don't have success. So if we never were able to make any plays in the run game or the pass game or offense, if we weren't ever able to make any plays and we were just totally overwhelmed by the other team's talent, okay, then I would consider maybe a lack of belief, maybe that could be a consideration, but I don't necessarily see that.
Maybe I should clarify. I wasn't questioning the belief in your team. I was asking you how to characterize Indiana's belief in itself right now, since they're on this high. How would you characterize Indiana's belief in itself right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning your team's belief. I was asking you about Indiana, kind of, and how challenging it is to go up against a team that's riding this all-time high right now.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question. They're playing fast right now, and teams that are confident play fast and they play physical, and players play fast when they know what they're doing, and they trust that the person next to them knows what they're doing, so they can just focus on doing their job to the best of their ability, and they're doing that in all 3 phases. So, obviously, they've done some really good things, and are playing well and finding ways to win games. Playing complementary football. When I watched the games, I watched the continuous copy. So I watched from start to finish. So I see how they play, off of each other and how the momentum shifts and things like that. And they play hard, and they continue to come at you. So that's the challenge. I mean, you want to play good teams. I mean, we're national TV. We're at home. This is a top 10 opponent. I mean, that's what you want. I mean, if you're a competitor, you want to play. You want to play a good team. I want to get our guys prepared the best that we can this week, and I want to get them out there against those guys, and I want to go play. I want to go compete against a good team. That's the best part about it. I mean, shoot, if you don't want to play against good teams, I mean, there's something wrong with you, I think.
Thank you.
Thanks, Audrey. We have time for just a couple more. Coach has to get going. We'll go to Jim Comparoni with Spartan Magazine. Jim.
Hey, Mel, I appreciate your candidness, your enthusiasm today. Thanks for your time. Can you talk about the linebacker picture that you inherited and continue to work on outside of Antoine Simmons? I mean, you've rotated a lot of functional players on the defensive line and in the secondary, but at linebackers, it looks like you didn't inherit much depth there. Can you talk about the challenges there at linebacker when you have problems with run fits or covering a running back in the flat or something like that? The challenges that you're working through there, trying to get enough players together at that position.
Yeah, we've got enough guys to get the job done. So, that's not an issue. We need better communication, and we need to take what we practice and we need to take it to the game. If we're supposed to swap a tight end and a running back, and we've done it 10 times in practice, and they run the same play in the game that we practice, over and over again, and we don't swap the guy and the guy's wide open in the flat. I mean, that's correctable. We got to figure out to make sure that we got to figure out how do we make sure that what we practice we can take to the game and execute that. And so, and we have players that can do that, and that's the players that we inherited. When I got here, I believe it was on February 12th. I told those guys, I said, listen, I don't, just because I didn't recruit you, that don't mean that you're not my guys. You're my guys now. It's not like inherited players. I don't, that's not part of it. It's the guys that we have that are on this team. They're my guys now. And so teach, motivate, develop, get them in position to make plays, have competition in practice, have competition within the position, and get guys as healthy as they can be, as ready as they can be, and get them out there and execute the game plan and go play fast and go make plays. And I have confidence in those guys that they can do that, But our training and our preparation has to be we have to take it up a notch in order to get it better, And so, because obviously, you send a back to the flat and he's wide open, and we don't have a defenses. We don't have these tricked up defenses that are unsound, and you're taking chances here, and everything that we have is sound against the run and sound against the pass. Like we have sound schemes, So if a guy's wide open, then somebody made a mistake. So we got to figure out how to coach it better. We got to play it better, And so at least you're in a position to make a play. Now, if you're in a position to make the play, and then you can't make it on a consistent basis, and then maybe we need to get another player in there. And then if we don't have another player to put in there, then we're relying on recruiting.
And I would imagine the same thing goes when you talked about the run fits. Same thing with identifying those and how you need to fit those. That comes into, D'Antonio used to talk about the 10,000 hour rule. It takes a while to learn those things. And when you're changing defensive scheme, I imagine that clock starts over for some players. But run fits, same thing, identifying, pulling the plug, that type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So we come out of half. We talked about last week. We talked about, hey, listen, we were able to do this in the first half. This is there. We missed this. We missed this. If we do the things that we're supposed to, we can march down the field. We can score. Okay. So we come down there and we do that. Okay. Then they get the ball back and they run a split zone, the same play they've been running all game, and we don't get underneath the guy coming back on a split zone, and we don't stay in our gap. And the ball goes, the guy almost hits head on the goalpost on a play that every team that runs zone plays and college and pros run the same play the same way. We've rep that play a million times, and they had actually run that play in the game before, and it hadn't been an issue. Mm-hmm. Consistency and performance. Do your job. And
meanwhile,
we got to coach. I mean, we got to coach it. We got to drill it in them better so that it doesn't happen. I mean, that's what's frustrating, but the frustration can only last so long. Then you got to go back to work and and you correct it. Like we ran that play in the correction yesterday. Okay, here was the play. Here was the play they ran. Here's the defense we were in. Here's the players that were in the game so put them out there, run the play, go over it again. Do you understand where you need to be? Yes. Okay. All right. Move on. Get it right.
Thanks.
We got to move on. Thank you. I appreciate it. Our last question goes to Nate Atkins with Lansing State Journal. Nate.
Hey, Mel, I'm just wondering if you knew Tom Allen at all before you took this job, and what do you think has made him successful as he's built Indiana up to where it is now?
Yeah, you know what? I really didn't know Tom. I've gotten to know him just really just kind of over, since I've been here, because of so many of because of COVID, we would have like head coaches meetings like pretty much once a week, sometimes twice a week. And so all of us would be on Zoom calls and, talking about, protocols and these types of things. And so, I kind of got a chance to hear him and some of the other coaches in the league that I really didn't know. And so, I have a lot of respect for how he goes about his business. He's obviously, he's an outstanding football coach. He's really smart. And he's attention to detail. And, they've recruited well. They do it. They have good facilities. When you look at, if you look at the players that they have on their roster, you look and see where they come from. They know what works for them. They have areas in the country where they know where they can get players that fit what they want to do. And then they play to the strength of the guys that they have, and then they have a quarterback, which is what you have to have in order to have a chance. And so, he's built it in a way that it's a very solid team, and at every, in all phases. So obviously he knew what type of team he wanted, and he recruited towards that. And so that's why he has the type of team that he has now, and they play with toughness and physicality, and they play fast. So I have a lot of respect for how he's built that team. It's obvious when you look at the depth chart and look at where these guys come from. You look at their height, their weight, their speed, their size. He's done a heck of a job building that team.
Coach, we have just one more question that came in from Rainer Saban with the Detroit Free Press, and then we'll wrap it up. We really appreciate your time. We'll go to Rainer for the last question.
Yeah, Mel. I guess last year, I think 6 or 7 players left the program through the transfer portal last year. You've come in, and there hasn't been any players who've left. I mean, what does that say about what you're doing and the buy-in that you've been able to get from your roster? And what do you think that means going forward? And can you talk about just the idea of retention and how important that is for program in this day and age with the transfer portal?
Yeah, the portal is here to stay. It's part of the it's a big part of it's become a big part of the process. Because recruiting is part of the process as well. But if a player, like I said the day I got here, if a player loves football, I'm probably going to like you. And so we have an environment, and we have a set of expectations, and we have a process that I believe is appealing to our players. It resonates with them because there's no gray. There's no gray in any area of our program, and we believe in communication and honesty and truth, and to teach, motivate, and develop players. And so if you want to be a good football player, and you want to be a good student, and you want to get a degree from Michigan State, and you want to work, and you embrace hard work, and you love the grind, and you embrace competition, and you love to be coached, and you appreciate real relationships and communication, then I don't know why you wouldn't want to be here. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, and just that to add, is recruiting your own roster, become essential again in this day and age? I mean, again, with the avenue that the transfer portal provides, and the possibility that now you're going to be able to transfer freely, if that rule is passed in the coming cycle.
Yeah, recruiting your own roster philosophically, I've always believed that you had to do that. This is before the portal even existed. You have to recruit your players every day. And when I'm talking about recruiting, I'm not talking about recruiting as like you're recruiting high school guys, like bringing them in on a visit and taking them on a tour of the facilities and all that. I'm talking about, you're constantly selling what your process is, what your plan is. How are we going to help you reach your full potential, on and off the field, specifically, like what are we, how are we going to help you? Why is it better to be here than be somewhere else? And you have to constantly, coach those guys and show them that, day in and day out. I mean, every opportunity you get a chance to have a contact with a player, you have to make that count with that young man. When you see him in the hallway, you see him on the field, you see him in the meeting room, you talk to him on the phone, you're texting the guy, you're FaceTiming the guy, whatever that is with your own team, those contact points, those interactions, that's what we're here to do. That's part of this is a people, but you win with people. So that's recruiting your own team every day, and then sometimes what you're selling to a player, what you're asking of them, what your philosophy is, sometimes that's not what they want. That's not for them. They're looking for something different, and then they go into and then they have opportunities to lead a program now, and it's actually easier for them to leave. And so you see quite a bit of that. But also, I've gotten players out of the portal, as well, because it's all about fit. And this Michigan State football, we're looking for certain types of student athletes to be here. Everyone that's out there that's a good player is not for us, and so, that's a big part of the process. The other part of the process that we don't really talk about a lot, that goes along with recruiting, is that when, you practice a lot more than you play. Over the course of a year, if you take how much you train and how much you practice, how much you compete, like in the out of season and spring ball and all the drill, there's a lot more practice than what you play. And so through recruiting and recruiting really, really good players that you believe that can help your program succeed on and off the field, those players are competing with each other in practice. And that's how you get really, really good. You get really good when day in and day out, you're going against a guy who's as good or better than you, and you have to compete in order to get on the field. And that's how it's like steel sharpening steel. So the better players you bring in, the more competitive your roster is, and that just raises the level of your team if you have competitors on your team. And so that's part of the process. And going back to what I said earlier, you want to make your practices harder than your games. In order to do that, you got to have a lot of good players out there in practice competing to get on the field. So that's a challenge, that's a huge part of the process. That's why, we are required to recruit every single day, regardless of the circumstance.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate your time, Coach. We'll see you on Saturday in Spartan Stadium.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate everything you guys do. Thanks for covering our team. Really appreciate it. We'll see you Saturday.
Thanks a lot, Mel. Thank you.
Got it.